coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you.
That was former Fox News host Tucker Carlson in Russia for some reason at a grocery store, I guess attempting to make some sort of point about how America bad, Russia good, and cheap groceries. Now, before I get into more detail, I want to show you the rest of the video.
I went from amused to legitimately angry. So we were guessing what this would cost. Everybody hears from the United States buys groceries, and we didn't pay any attention to costs as we were just putting in the cart what we would actually eat over a week. And we all came in around 400 bucks, about 400 bucks. It was $104 US here. And that's when you start to realize that ideology maybe doesn't matter as much as you thought, corruption. If you take people's standard of living and you tank it through filth and crime and inflation, and they literally can't buy the groceries they want, at that point, maybe it matters less what you say or whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're wrecking people's lives in their country, and that's what our leaders have done to us. And coming to a Russian grocery store, the heart of evil, and seeing what things cost and how people live, it will radicalize you against our leaders. That's how I feel anyway, radicalized.
Radicalized. Oh my God, feel the radicalization. Look, I like cheap groceries. That doesn't mean I think Russia good. By the way, I don't think Russia bad either. I despise their leaders, Vladimir Putin, the oil oligarchs, etc. But the Russian people, the woman scanning Tucker's groceries, I got nothing against her. All right, she's trying to live her life, pay the bills, just like anybody else, right? It's like grocery workers here. Tucker, though, what he's doing is straight up propaganda. Here's why. You know, the reason groceries are cheaper to someone like Tucker Carlson is because the standard of living in Russia is lower than it is in the United States. Do you know the annual average Russian salary is about $14,771 in US dollars? It's around $761 monthly, okay? The $100 grocery bill is about 13% of the average monthly Russian income. Now remember, he just said he was buying for the week. Oh yeah, it's what I normally buy for the week. Okay, well, $100 a week, that's about $400. That's over half your monthly income on groceries alone. In fact, according to a survey published in July of 2021 by Russian state media, TASS, more than 60% of Russians spend half their income on groceries. That tracks. That's reality. And look, that's not to mention, like, that's not even, talking about rent, right? In the most affordable places in Moscow, they actually cost about $500 for a month. In the city center, it's about up to $1,500. Then you add in things like fuel, childcare, healthcare, entertainment. The average Russian person is not doing very well, right? And you can also say, well, the average American isn't doing well. Exactly, that's the point. The little grocery trip that Tucker took, though, is actually really expensive for the average working class Russian. And yet he's trying to say that, oh, it's better in Russia, but in America, I'm being radicalized. What? Again, if you're a wealthy American like Tucker Carlson, then you'd be doing pretty well in Russia. But if you're an average Russian, you're not doing so well. But here's the thing. Tucker Carlson really does think his audience is stupid. He might actually be correct about that, okay? But still, I mean, the contempt that he has for average working people, to be able to lie to them and gaslight them the way that they do, and by the way, to ignore the real issues. Like he talks about, oh, you see, it's filth. That's the real problem. And of course, what he means by filth is immigrants. That's generally what it is. Immigrants, gay people, see members of the LGBT community, filth, degeneracy. That's the real problem. No, the real problem is greed. The real problem is actually capitalism. The real problem also, and you could point to leaders, right? Not in the way that Tucker Carlson is, because again, he blames leaders for immigrants coming in and gay people, etc. I actually would blame leaders for failing to pass things like raising the minimum wage, for example, or reining in corporate America. That's doing the inflation, that is massively profiting off of blaming inflation, right? Even though, yes, they have been hit by it and their costs have gone up slightly, they've decided to then add on a very, very comfortable, pad their little profit margins on top and then blame that all on inflation, which just isn't true, okay? And by the way, who's been blocking in America efforts to raise the minimum wage and efforts to rein in corporate America? That would be conservatives. That would be corporate-backed politicians. Funny enough, that would be the same kind of people that Tucker Carlson likes, agrees with. Oh, this is just, I mean, a pure straight-up propaganda piece by Tucker Carlson. It's really amazing. Now, he got some backlash. Senator Tom Tillis, for example, yes, this is a Republican, said, yes, Russia is so much better than the U.S. without those cheap groceries and lavish subway stations. The Soviets had a term for people like Tucker, useful idiots. I mean, you ain't wrong. MSNBC anchor Chris Hayes also pointed out that Americans would find the cost of items in a poorer country to be less than they are in the United States. It's facts. And Carlson was also made fun of over this fun reaction to the shopping carts.
All right. There we go. So I guess you put in 10 rubles here and you get it back when you put the cart back. So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it and not just bring it to your homeless encampment.
Of course, he's got to take a dig at homeless people, at the unhoused. Wait, doesn't Russia also have unhoused people? Why, yes, they do. People not being able to afford homes is a problem that exists all over the world. And if we actually had, humane housing policies and better wages, things like that, help for addiction, healthcare, etc., we could actually curb those numbers. Yes, and make them go down. Instead of listening to Tucker Carlson and just using that as an excuse to blame to ban non-white people from the country. But anyway, the response there from this is from the group Republicans Against Trump, who said, "Man of the people Tucker Carlson flew all the way to Russia to discover shopping cart technology that America has had for decades." I can literally go up to the Aldi's 5 minutes away from my house and find the same thing. Yes, I know. The worst thing, though, about that is, what if you forget to bring your quarter? Okay, or your reusable bags, which I bring. Look, those are issues for people like me who have ADHD and sometimes forget to bring the quarter and stuff. But it's generally a smart thing. That said, the reason we don't see it in America more often, it's not because we haven't had the technology. Actually, we had it for a long time. It's just that people would still leave their carts out anyway. And they would get very, very angry at having to bring a quarter or 10 cents or whatever. People just wanted to be lazy and leave their carts. Says a lot about our country, doesn't it? But it makes sense, though, that someone extremely wealthy like Tucker Carlson would try to produce such a nakedly propagandistic piece about Russia. This is a guy who's probably never done his own grocery shopping. He's a Swanson heir, and yet is having this really strange love affair with Russia.